Hello, Internet! Welcome to episode 266 of the Assorted Calibers podcast. The Second Amendment podcast is a little bit for everyone. Weird. And tonight, we are having an ACP Round Table. And I will pull back the curtain just a little bit before I introduce our lovely dais. And I will note that as a general rule, the the ACP Roundtables are... Oh, everyone got jammed up and we just don't have enough segments, so we're just going to talk about news and guns and going through. And the other little thing to pull back the curtain on is that while I'm editing the next week's show, every time a news story comes across my desk, I just open a little browser tab and I just have a little buildup of browser tabs to see, and I put them in the show notes before we start the show. And the number of tabs you'll see if you're listening to this, we got a lot of show notes, and it's all news. And I just said, you know what, this is too important, too interesting, and too numerous for us to do segments. So we are doing a roundtable. So of course we will start off with the most important person, and I'll let her introduce herself because of your circumstances. Erin Paulette! How you doing, Erin?
Yeah, I almost wasn't here because I'm on the rag.
Would you mind clarifying, young lady?
Yes, I am currently bleeding into cotton right now.
At least it's cotton.
Those of you who have noticed I am talking differently, Gold Star. I went to the dentist today, and they had to extract a molar, which is exactly as fun as you think it is. And they had to section it, which is the technical term for drill it into pieces and then yank it out, and then they went after the roots and all that other fun stuff. So I currently have a wad of cotton shoved into the back of my mouth. I mean, they stitched it up. It's not like a gaping wound, but it is bleeding. And I've been told that every few hours I need to take the cotton wad out, and if it comes out red, then I need to put in another one, and if it comes out pink, then I'm okay.
It's all pink on the inside.
You make everything awful.
The mischievous voice of David.
Hello. I'm in a bit of a mood.
And we have the recovering Oddball.
Hello.
How you feeling, Oddball?
Oh, pretty good.
If he's
every so often have a cough, and that's about it.
If Oddball is recovering, would that make him even ball?
Erin,
or
go lay down.
Or Otterball. Ooh, otters with a ball. Who doesn't like otters?
I mean, they're pretty adorable,
especially if they're playing, which is when they're awake.
This summer, my daughter and I went to the zoo, and we went to they have river otters there, and one of them, they're just swimming around, and they're always just ADD animals.
Oh, yes. That's why someone told me that an otter is my spirit animal.
Yeah, and one of them just bounced out of the water, went over to a little spot, it was right by the plexiglass that we were standing at, and just took an otter dump, shook out his butt, and then dived into the net. And then another one came out, went up to the exact same spot, and piled up his own otter dump on top of it. It was just poop time and poop location, and they all just joined in. It was a very interesting phenomenon.
Otters are one of the category referred to as latrine animals, like dogs and cats, but not horses.
Out of curiosity, are latrine animals primarily predators?
Huh. I had not considered that, but
I know llamas are, and they are not predators.
Excuse me? You saw the documentary.
That's right, Llamageddon.
So you shut your whore mouth.
All right, well, shall we dive in? We got a pile of news stories to cover here. And so, yeah, shall we dive into them, folks?
Yeah, I mean, my only hope is that by the time this airs next week, my concern is that, yeah, they're hot now, but next week they'll all be done deals and, people will have moved on to the next outrage.
Yeah, that's not an unlikely scenario, Aaron. I gotta say, I remember when we would have like one or two stories, and sometimes just go, screw it, we don't need to talk about news this week.
Yeah.
Yeah, it is. The news cycle is fast moving, and I think that's by intent.
Yeah. So, of the two outrages, which are we doing first, Liberty Safe or the governor of New Mexico?
Let's just start with Liberty Safe, because that's kind of the oldest one, and I mean, I think
also the Liberty Safe one is most likely to have longer legs.
Yeah, I think it is where it is, and it's not moving anymore. But we shall see.
It's going to stay in the gun community consciousness longer, I think.
Yeah.
I think
my brain. Pardon.
I think Liberty Safe is, well, actually not about to. It already has joined the ranks of Smith & Wesson and Ruger, because didn't both of those back some sort of really egregious gun control legislation in the 90s or early aughts?
With Ruger, Bill Ruger believed that people didn't need more than 10-round magazines when the whole assault weapon one was going around.
Right.
And that tainted the company to this day, even though Bill has been dead for years.
Right.
Smith & Wesson, under, I think, 2 owners back now, was pressured to enter a deal with HUD, at the time run by Princess Andrew Cuomo. Or Prince, whatever.
Yeah, my point being...
Yeah.
Is that gun owners have long memories and very sharp knives, and we cherish that grudge until the company is either bankrupt or it's gone through a serious leadership change.
Yeah, I mean, the difference between the two is Bill Ruger made an unforced error. He didn't need to say anything, and he stepped in that on his own. And even now, he's been dead for, 10 years or something? More?
That the company Ruger has done everything but piss on his grave. Like, they have done everything they can do while still being respectful to his the founder of the company, and the person who started it was to get it. Like, as soon as Bill Ruger died, suddenly they started making AR-15s. That I think that was. I don't think Bill Ruger was alive when the LCP came out, was he?
I don't think so. And
Bill Ruger also said no honest man needs a pistol smaller than a canned ham.
And
I just checked. Bill Ruger died in 2002. I didn't realize it was that long ago. But yeah, he died in 2002, and there are people who still hold a grudge, we'll say.
Cherish.
As Aaron so properly put it. Cherish a grudge. Thank you. Cherish a grudge against the Ruger company. The big difference, I think, with that is Smith & Wesson did not do an unforced error. They were pressured by the federal government to enter into an imperial deal. As in, we have changed the terms, pray we do not change them further, which is particularly appropriate considering the man in charge of HUD at the time later went on to become the governor of New York, aka the Empire State. So, but Smith & Wesson still caught a lot of grief for that, and as I said, I believe they've changed hands twice more, and they're now once again owned by an American company who is not in bed with the federal government.
And I actually heard the market person say, we are well aware of the things that Smith & Wesson has done. We are not happy with what the former owners did, and we vow to never do anything like that ever again.
Yeah. Yep. Oh, and for the side discussion that was happening in chat, apparently I started echoing, so I went into my settings and found out that once again Discord had switched me to the default microphone.
Okay.
So I switched it back to the actual microphone, and apparently that's over.
Oh, good.
Yes.
Until it does it to me again.
Yeah.
Oh, Discord, please change. But yeah, the grand opening of the Smith & Wesson facility in the Knoxville area is coming up Columbus Day weekend, that Saturday.
Oh, sweet.
And actually, I'm going to be having a few folks in from out of town, and I have suggested that maybe we should go and attend that. The ticket to gain entry, which includes apparently access to their public shooting range, is $25, which is not bad considering the local range we usually go to is like $12 or $14, and it's just the use of the range. Whereas this is with the Smith & Wesson thing, there are vendors, there's apparently there are going to be product guns to test fire and entertainment and such. So I'm going to hopefully get some other people to say, yeah, let's take a look and see what it is.
So it
Maybe if
sounds
you're
like
lucky, they'll unveil something new too.
Oh, yeah.
so it sounds like you're not shooting your own ammo.
If it's their guns, then it's their ammo.
Nice.
But I believe they said it's their public range, so that means that people could also bring their own firearms, because they didn't say you couldn't. So it would be the best of both worlds.
But we are bearing the
yeah.
lead. Who wants to tell the world what Liberty Safe did?
I would be happy to jump in on this, since I did not actually buy a Liberty Safe when I was safe shopping years ago, and I'm thankful for that now. So a Liberty Safe was contacted by law enforcement,
Specifically the FBI.
Yep, specifically the FBI, that they had a warrant for a person's property, theoretically someone connected with January 6th, although that has now become even more tenuous with following reports. And he had a gun safe, and they wanted the combination. And Liberty Safe had several choices. One choice was to say, go fudge yourself. The second choice was, show us a specific legal piece of paper for the contents of the safe. And the third one was, may I floss with your bootlaces? And they chose the third option. And they handed over the let's say backdoor, which is an appropriate terminology here, since that's what they did to the gun owners, backdoor combination for the electronic lock on the safe, and the FBI was able to open it without damaging the safe. Yeah, that came out, and boy, howdy, did the gun sphere react as anybody might have expected, but even more so. I mean, I have not seen that level of anger and horror, including when the term Zumbo came into use originally. I mean, partially the social media is much more developed than almost any previous event of this type. So it traveled at the speed of electrons. And suddenly every gun board and every even partially affiliated social media group was talking about what Liberty Safe had done. And almost everybody stepped in. I believe that, Brandon Herrera did an emergency gun meme review.
He did.
On this situation, which I just realized is not in the show notes, so I will put it there. Because memes. Yeah, it's what we do. So it just got wild, and Liberty Safe tried to do damage control. We'll see how effective that is.
I'm gonna go with not very.
Definitely not as much as they hope. That's for sure. But they came out and said it is not a single universal backdoor for all safes. It is the emergency backup for that safe. One thing I will say in Liberty Safe's credit, I'm not going to go as far as say defense, but to their credit, this database of backdoor codes has been around at Liberty Safe for however long they've been using these electronic locks. And this is
Well-
the first whisper that we've gotten of it.
And also, quite frankly, if anybody that's really looked at the lock industry, just about every company that puts out electronic locks has a similar database. And
Oh yeah,
and
absolutely.
frankly, if you go, well, I have a mechanical safe, so well, if it's a combo and it wasn't something that you set yourself,
Mm-hmm.
chances are the company has a database saying, oh, it's this serial number, yeah, it's this combo.
Mhm.
Yep.
And that is simply so that there are countless instances of
Mhm.
the owner of the safe, for whatever reason, lost their code, or
Forgot
in
it,
case-
or
ca-
the owner
case of
passed
electronic-
on and the inheritor needs to
Right.
get in there.
Well, so two things based upon the two. Oh, actually, there were 3 videos that were linked, but I didn't watch one of them. The one with Runkle of the Bailey, he said, and I haven't verified this, but I want to believe him, is that if you contact Security because you can't get into your safe, they won't give you the code. They will
Really?
give the code to a locksmith.
Ah,
So you still end up
I
paying
have
the
heard that.
locksmith.
I haven't been able to verify, and I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know. If I remember, it's been a couple days since I watched the video, but he may have not been speaking about Liberty in specific, but more of certain safe companies' practices.
Well, that's what I remember, and I watched it
Okay.
before we
Okay,
started
well,
the show.
I trust your memory better than mine at this point.
You fool.
you could have left off the at this point. Weird.
But
Well,
what I'm getting at is, you're still out some money. Admittedly, you're not out the same amount of money for the locksmith to pick the lock or drill out the
Mhm.
safe, but
mm,
it's not exactly convenient. The other point that I
Well-
want to make is that Mr. Kubinik, I believe, I hope I say that right, the man who runs a Security, he went on the record and he basically called out the entire firearm safe industry, or safe industry, I guess. And he said that Security does not hold any sort of code. They will never hold any sort of code. And if you buy one of their safes with the electronic locks, they don't have the manufacturer reset code. The manufacturer does, and it linked at the bottom of the video is here's how you contact them, and here's the information where you can reset that so that the override doesn't work anymore. And this is very important information, and he wants to change the industry, and I think that's a good thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
of
he's
course,
already
the
done
downs-
a great job with it as well, with just all his stuff. I mean, obviously we have had him on as a guest fairly early on in the show, and his philosophies are definitely, rather than go playing by the same game strategy, like, I mean, a lot of his safes are simply just very, very heavy gauge expanded steel, because we don't need to like seal them all up and make them super heavy. You bolt it, you bolt them down and let the air circulate through them so that they don't have buildup of moisture. You don't need all these like golden rods and other dehumidifier.
Of course, that
items.
does reduce the fire protection time.
Well, but also, as he was saying, fire protection time is a little dubious, because there's the amount of fire that's in a testing oven, and then there is the actual house fire where there is like strong convection currents.
Well, there's the testing oven is a specific standardized environment. There is no standardized environment for a house fire.
Correct.
Every room in a house is a somewhat unique animal.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm specifically using the term animal because they do kind of act like they're alive. But
Either way, if you happen to be, I actually have some interesting documentation. I mean, there's certainly been a lot of people talking about, like, I mean, I saw like I saw a meme that came up on a couple occasions, which showed like garbage cans sitting on the curb, and then also a Liberty safe, and then it's garbage day.
Yep. My favorite one was the Liberty safe full of Bud Light.
Yes, is if you happen to own a Liberty safe, it is very similar to if you happen to be a life member of the NRA. Is that really, is being a member of the NRA really doing much for us anymore? No, it's not. And like
an owner of one of the Yeti coolers.
Correct.
Yeah. Yep. They already got your money. They don't care if you fill it with tannerite and blow it up.
So if you happen to be shopping for a safe,
look
certainly. I forgot to say one of the things that Ian Runkle clarified, which I was very thankful of, is pointed out the fact that this was something that was kind of debated at first when this was fresh on Liberty Safe said, they were presented with a warrant. Well, okay, if you're presented with a warrant, then what are you going to do? That's you could tell them to F off. It's just going to make it worse. So them complying with the warrant was just them.
Right.
No, the warrant was for this person's house and potentially this person's safe. Obviously, I haven't seen the warrant.
It was from what somebody reported, it was house and contents.
Okay, yeah.
They did not report. From reading a copy of the warrant, they did not report that it specifically mentioned the gun safe, just house and contents, which they also said was fairly standard phrasing.
Well, yeah, but be that as it may, as Ian pointed out, and I don't know if this is where Weer'd was going or not, but if it is, he's taking too long to get to the point.
Knowing where Weer'd is going.
Right. The warrant wasn't for Liberty Safe to cooperate. The warrant was for the house. And absent a warrant telling Liberty Safe to give them the code, there is no compelling reason to do that.
Right, that was what I'd heard as well.
Yeah, I mean, the example Runkle gave is the police can come over and say, do you have a key to the neighbor's house? We have a warrant to search. And you can have the key in your hand, and you can say, no, go away. And legally, they have no recourse. So,
right.
It's not. It would have been one thing if Liberty Safe had received a warrant saying, Liberty Safe, give us the code. This was not what happened.
Yep. And wasn't it Apple who basically told the feds to go pound sand when they want to hack into someone's phone?
I believe so.
Yeah, Apple said that the encryption on their phones was set up so that it wasn't that Apple said told them go pound sand. It was Apple said, yeah, good luck with that. We don't have a tool to decrypt it.
Oh, okay. I misremembered. Because it would have been a very strange world where Apple was more defensive than a safe company, but that makes more sense.
In a sense, they told them to go pound sand in that we don't have the keys. Sorry.
Right. Yeah, but it wasn't how I remembered it, which was, oh yeah, we could do that. We're not going to, though.
Yeah.
Which is what, as Erin reported, Runkle saying, if everything is accurate the way it's been reported by the various experts, if it's true that Liberty did not have to disclose this, barring a specific, would it be a warrant or subpoena or whatever? That doesn't matter. That's pedantic. But unless there was some legal paperwork presented to Liberty saying you have to give us this combination, the answer should have been come back with a warrant.
Mm-hmm. But who owns Liberty Safe? Weer'd?
I've got that listed. Let's see. I actually don't remember the name of the company that.
There's a link in the show notes that says Liberty Safe was sold to Monomoy Capital Partners in 2021. Which is an East Coast investment firm. And over the last 10 cycles, they made over $400,000 in maximum donations to people such as Mark Kelly and John Fetterman.
Mm-hmm.
Their current CEO, Justin Hillenbrand, was a founding partner of Monomoy and donated $4,600 to Obama for America. In that link, there is a list.
I mean, just because he donated to Obama, that doesn't specifically make him bad.
But also Mark Kelly and John Fetterman?
Now that's fine.
Although the one that my brain goes in different directions was the company Monomoy Capital made a couple of donations to Steve Irwin for Congress. And my brain immediately goes to the animal guy, who is sadly deceased. And I don't think would be able to run for U.S. Congress anyway.
He'd still do a better job than half the Congress critters out there.
Including John Fetterman.
Only half?
At least half.
Okay. I'll go with that. But yeah, so it's owned by a fairly politically biased, shall we say, ownership. I would like to see, because the link is only reporting on the donations to one particular party's candidates, and I know a lot of companies make donations to both parties because they'd be fools not to.
Right.
And so I would be interested to see, did they make similar amount in donations to the other party? Because if they did, that's just good business. If they only made donations or they made drastically unbalanced donations in favor of one party, that's a problem. Because I know friends who have worked for multinational corporations and they have a budget line item that is divided equally between the two main parties for political donations because they're doing business.
But so either way, I think that solidifies the idea that if you are in the market for a new gun safe, then Liberty is probably a brand that you might want to pass over, given all of this information.
Wrong holiday.
Thank you, David. But in the event that you own a Liberty safe, what can you do? And I've got a couple of links in the show notes of some people that are way smarter than us on such things, talking about what to do. But essentially, at the simplest level, you could go through your safe and peel off any exposed labels,
serial numbers, right?
Yeah, that have the serial numbers of the safe, because we assume that the FBI read off the serial number that might be on the side of the safe or somewhere that let Liberty know specifically what safe that they were looking at.
Yeah.
That is,
remove that. Keep it in a secure place.
Yeah. I mean, I would
another locking container.
Yeah, I would argue, either encrypted somewhere or in another locking container, preferably not on your house. I'm a huge fan of bank safety deposit
storage.
boxes. Bank safety deposit boxes are dirt cheap. And
I don't know if this is true, but I had heard somebody say that with that kind of with certain types of things, what you can do is you can mail it to yourself and keep it in the sealed envelope because it's postal something regulation.
I don't know about that. I know
it's illegal for anyone other than the recipient to open the mail or something. I don't know if it's true. I don't know if it's enforced. It was just something that I heard and I thought it was interesting.
Yeah,
that sounds very close to the gold fringes on the flag.
I mean, it is a crime to interfere with the mail, but what interfere means is very vague.
If you've mailed it to yourself and you've already received it, the post office's hands are clean.
I mean, it seems to me that if a search warrant will allow you to open a safe, then it will allow you to open an envelope.
I would think so. That's why I said I don't know if it's true.
Yeah, the only time I've ever heard about that being done for legality is, I know Nate had a stack of unopened envelopes when we lived together, and he called it his poor man's copyright, which is he would record a song, that he did not want to dump the money into actually legally having it copyrighted, but he would write the song, record it onto a CD, and then mail it to himself and leave the envelope, and he sealed the envelopes real tight with packing tape, and so therefore it would be mailed back to himself. And the idea being that in the event that somebody attempts to cover one of his songs for profit, he could essentially present the court with an unopened envelope containing that song. And and it would be opened up. And clearly, if it was sealed in that envelope before X time, that clearly shows that it was written at least at that time at the very latest. And so
I just
poor man's copy.
So I just looked it up, and this is on a legal explanations website. And apparently it is a crime it's a federal offense under Title 18, Section 1708 of the United States Code. It's known as the Mail Theft Statute. It is illegal to take, steal, or fraudulently obtain any mail that is not addressed to you. The law also prohibits the willful obstruction of mail delivery, tampering with someone else's mail, or destroying someone else's mail. Violators can face imprisonment up to 5 years and fines up to $250,000. However, I have a feeling, as was mentioned, that a warrant to search the premises and contents would include any mail in the premises.
Yeah. I am a huge fan of bank safety deposit boxes. Go show up a bank. Doesn't even need to be a bank that you have an account at, and just ask if they've got boxes in their vault for rent. And you pay annual or monthly fee that is not that much money, and it is in a secure bank vault, and also it is off-site. So therefore, any search warrant would need to be specifically for that bank vault. And of course, make sure that, one of the key things to put into a bank vault is a will and testament. So make sure that your next of kin are well aware of the bank vault and
a trusted person has a spare key,
correct.
and they are on the list of allowed persons.
Correct. And that way, in the event that something happens, you could go through, such as you pass away and someone might want to get into your gun safe. Might be a good idea to have the serial numbers for the lock so that you can contact either.
If you're doing that, you might as well have the combination in the safety deposit box.
That's true.
Although I have noticed, especially more recently, is fewer banks have safety deposit boxes anymore.
That is true.
Around us, it's mostly fairly small branch buildings. They've got an ATM inside with 2 offices and 2 tellers, and that's the building.
Yep.
Though it's a little bit more of a challenge to find that safe deposit
also
box.
there's while bank safety deposit boxes are less common, storage facilities are considerably more common, and you can rent some pretty small storage lockers.
I'm not sure what the legal protections are compared to a bank safety deposit box.
It's still off-site area,
and it also can be stored with a trusted friend. Again, that person who you would trust with the key to a safety deposit box.
Yep, that's true. And so, but either way, that's one thing you do. Another thing you can do is you can order a new lock for your safe, because of course, if you just pull the serial numbers off, that's all well and good. But if Liberty Safe delivered this specific safe to your house,
those records.
They may have sales records, which may include the serial number.
If you filled out the owner registration card, which admittedly not very many people do with a lot of stuff.
Yeah.
But if you did fill out the owner registration card, then they absolutely have a record of who has what safe.
Yes. So you can pull the lock out of the safe, and it looks actually fairly easy.
They're designed to be modular because an electronic lock, let me clarify. The dial combination locks is a bit more involved, but the digital locks are designed to be modular because electronics fail. It just happens.
Even then, in the show notes, I've got a link to Deviant Olem, and he specifically has mechanical locks in his safe. He specifically does not want digital locks.
Yeah, I have a dial lock on my safe as well.
And he's listed that there are some dial locks that will fit in the same footprint as these electronic locks.
That's good to know.
So you certainly can pull the lock and either replace it with the exact same keypad, so everything's going to look factory original, except for it's not going to be the factory keypad that matches that box.
Yep.
And you can take any little stickers or serial numbers and pull them off of that unit and store them in a secure place.
Yep.
in the event that you do need to use that.
Yep.
But it would make it very, very difficult for a really anybody.
Yeah.
It could be the FBI, it could be your local police, it could be a criminal that's trying to impersonate you. It could be someone socially engineering their way into your gun safe.
Your disgruntled ex.
Yes. But
now, one thing for just a little bit more deviousness is replace the lock with one that looks identical, but leave the serial number stickers on the safe. So if they do get that information from Liberty, it's not going to work.
That's not a bad idea either.
Just for funsies.
Yeah.
One other thing I wanted to mention is I've got several secure gun storage units at the house. I've got a little stack on in the back of one closet just for storage of overflow, and it does have a serial number on it, but that serial number is on the back of the outside of the safe. So once it's bolted into place, it would have to be ripped out from the wall to get to that, to get it unlocked. And at that point, you're probably just better off bringing an angle grinder into the closet or wherever it's stored. I mean, it's obviously going to be a lot easier. The big safe, the serial number was not on the outside of the safe. It was on a card, which I have stored in a different locked container. So, and plus this is an older safe. It's an old Browning safe. I'm not sure if Browning even has the records for safes this old.
But Weer'd, surely we can contact Liberty Safes and tell them to delete the combination, and they'll do so.
According to them, you can. We've got a tweet that they posted in the show notes where, number one, they are very, very clear about they're very, very clear about the fact that it's not a master access code, but a secure database that they have. Secure is a big unknown. Again, on this is the how many people had access to this. Yep. Could this be either compromised through a disgruntled employee or through a hacker? Is there an algorithm involved in this that if you know the serial number, then there is a certain amount of logic that you can spin into this?
Or is it randomly generated? Yeah. But again, I want to reiterate, is to Liberty's credit, this is the first anyone has heard about this database in the gun sphere. It may have been something that was known in the safe community, but do any of you hear about Liberty having a database of backdoor codes for their digital locks?
I was unaware that there was even more codes than the ones that you programmed in.
Right. So they've kept this very quiet for a number of years, to their credit. And if there had been a leak of this and a rash of thefts from Liberty safes, it would have been known. So credit where credit is due. However, all that goodwill has been lost through this one foolhardy action.
Well, the point that I was making, and I guess I didn't have enough of a sarcasm voice, is that if they've rolled over like this and they only changed their policy because of massive backlash, I would not blame you if you were suspicious in your belief that just because they say they will delete your code, that they will actually do so.
Right. Yeah, they'll have a tick box checked on that record, and if you call up asking for the code, oh no, you told us to remove that from our database, so I did. Meanwhile, law enforcement comes in with a warrant for that, and they say, oh, here it is. We apparently didn't delete it after all. Yeah.
And also, one thing that isn't discussed about this is they state that they have a policy that if they are presented with a warrant, again, not for them, but for their customer, then the holder of the warrant is king, even though that warrant is not binding to them in the least.
Just to clarify, Weer'd, to quote from the Liberty statement, we have also revised our policies around cooperation with law enforcement. Going forward, we will require a subpoena that legally compels Liberty Safe to supply access codes, but can only do so if these codes still exist in our system. So they're basically saying what happened this time won't happen again, assuming they're telling the truth.
But the point I was going to make is that in the first tweet that came out saying that they did comply with the FBI's warrant,
right?
how many other warrants have they been issued? And again, that leaves law enforcement with a list of backdoor access codes for Liberty safes. And can that be backwards engineered?
Right. Yeah, you were mentioning if there was a comprehensible algorithm based on serial numbers. And, of course, now that its existence is known, how long before somebody hacks into it?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, Oddball, I'm sure you know people who would be happy to test their skills against Liberty Safe.
Oh, probably.
So, have we kicked Liberty Safe in the testicles enough for one night?
I feel like we have. Does anybody else have anything else to add on that, Wilson?
Oh, hey, the gauze
No.
came out pink.
Oh, good.
Yeah.
That's positive.
Yeah.
That's a good way. The only thing I would just want to toss in is, as Weer'd said, if you are considering buying some type of security container for your firearms, and I highly recommend everyone have something, there are a number of other manufacturers out there, and there are also combination locks that are dial instead of electronic, and many of these locks, both dial and electronic, can be reset, but if there is a hard-coded backup that the manufacturer has, nothing we can do about it.
Now, I assume that you didn't mention physical key locks for a reason, and I would imagine that's because it's a lot easier to pick physical locks than combination locks.
Hi, welcome to the Lock-Picking Lawyer. Yes.
Well, it's what I thought, but, we should say these things out loud.
Yes, that's a good point. But yeah, from my understanding of the different locking mechanisms, the most key locks are way too easy compared to combination locks, either digital or mechanical.
Okay.
I am not an expert in any way in this field, and I would think both Weer'd and Oddball are more knowledgeable than I am.
I mean, I will say Deviant Olem has some very, very good resources on how to attack a safe, depending on what the means are, and certainly there are lots of exploits out there, and just the pure physical key locks can be accessed through standard lock picking.
Right.
There's a way into anything.
Oh yeah, anything that can be locked can be unlocked, but things can be made harder.
Yes.
And another aspect to that is, in a lot of respects, you get what you pay for. So, if you buy a stack-on security cabinet with the Chapman-style key lock for $100 at Home Depot, you're not getting the same level of protection if you buy the $600 whatever Liberty or one of the other brand gun safes with the Sargent and Greenleaf digital or mechanical dial lock.
Right.
So, but like I said, the important thing is I do recommend everyone have secure storage for their firearms. Doesn't mean you should all of your guns should be locked up all the time. You want to have. I mean, I have a bedside gun. I'm sure most of us here have a bedside gun. Not to mention our emotional support cats. But
I think it's time to move on to the other huge news story, and this one's more late breaking. For us now, of course, we are we're recording on September 11th. So again, note the time delay. There may be a lot going on between now and the next show. But New Mexico's governor essentially bans carry of firearms.
She is the law.
But Weird, why should we be concerned with what's happening in another country?
Oh God. Same people who think Maine's a part of Canada.
I mean, they're not wrong. They're more right than people who think New Mexico is part of Mexico.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, just like there are parts of Michigan that are really Canada.
Yes.
And are north of it.
There are parts of Canada that are really Michigan.
We're just trying to figure out who won the war.
Well, we can all agree that Michigan won the war against Ohio. That's why Ohio has Toledo.
Yep, that is true.
But in New Mexico, they had an instance of an 11-year-old boy was shot in. It appears to be like gang crossfire. There's not a whole lot of information on this story. I found a bunch of stories, and they're really just focusing on just the broad points and not about who did the shooting and what caused this.
Yeah, I just want to tack one thing on to what Oddball said, is that while Michigan won the war against Ohio, apparently Tennessee lost the war against Arkansas or Mississippi, because we still have Memphis.
Yeah, there is that.
Wah, wah. Anyway, New Mexico.
Mm-hmm.
The governor.
Yes, there's been a spate of violent crime in New Mexico, including this young boy being killed, and so the governor, Michelle Lujan Grisham, stated that there was going to be a public health order. Where have we heard this term before? And 30 days to flatten the curve of gun violence. Let's just hit it right on the nose. Let's not tap dance around it. And so, yeah, she's essentially using COVID lockdown law as a mean to suspend the Second Amendment.
Well, it's the old thing, is if a government official has emergency powers, they will always find another emergency.
So I don't think we've actually we've tap danced around it, but we haven't actually said what she did.
Classic Weer'd.
Oh, yes.
So she has announced that she is declaring a public health emergency for the next 30 days, suspending, in her words, the privilege to carry either concealed or open, regardless of whether you have a permit or not,
in public,
in cities that fall within blah 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 blah, which basically means Albuquerque.
Albuquerque and the surrounding towns, basically.
Okay.
And one of my favorite parts is the sheriffs in those affected counties, or maybe it is just the one county.
Yeah, it's just the one county. It's the city of Albuquerque and the county that contains it.
Oh, okay. So the sheriff of the county has vowed not to enforce it.
But
county's prosecutor has said they will not.
Yeah, hang on here. Yeah, the district attorney, who was literally appointed by that governor, said that he wasn't going to prosecute. And so it also wasn't just the county sheriff, but also the mayor of Albuquerque and the police chief of Albuquerque saying they wouldn't enforce it.
Right.
Yeah, basically everybody below the governor in Albuquerque and the surrounding county have said nuh-uh.
And just to be clear, at least in the case of the chief of police of Albuquerque and the sheriff of the applicable county, they aren't exactly pro-gun individuals themselves.
Nope. They just want to be on the right side of the lawsuit.
Right. The chief of police just simply said, "Yeah, I don't expect my folks to enforce it. This is something that's up to the state police to enforce." And the county sheriff actually said something along the lines of, "This questions the very fabric of our Constitution."
Yep.
Yeah,
but
according to this, hang on. Let me get this. The one thing I want to point out, and okay, there is the whole question of whether you can suspend the Constitution or not. Let's just set that aside for just a moment. The point that I want to make here is that the governor is the state-level version of the president. That is the executive branch. The executive branch does not pass laws. That would be the legislature, the Congress, be it state level or national level. if there's going to be any sort of law that suspends carry of guns for 30 days, again, regardless of the constitutionality of it, that sort of thing would come from the legislature. She doesn't have the power to do this.
Correct.
Not only does she not have the power to do that, but according to some other statements, that is in direct violation to the state constitution. Not just the Second Amendment aspect or analog, but the state constitution separation of powers element.
So there's at least two really bad things going on here.
Oh, yeah.
Now, is that what you were going to say, or were you going to say something else before I stepped in?
I was going to actually go on to her comment about no constitutional right is intended to be absolute, including her oath of office statement that she made.
She didn't say that last part, did she?
Yes.
Even her oath of office isn't absolute?
That is what she said.
Oh, good God.
Oh, yes.
Well, I mean, there's no wonder then why this is being seen as radioactive. I mean, yeah, I know all of our listeners are gasping, but just to make it clear how bad this is, in case you've been living under a rock, David Hogg, who has never met a gun control law he doesn't love, has said this is going too far. When you
the end times are upon us.
Yeah, when you have lost the whole hog, this is bad. This is really, really bad.
Oh, yeah. I was also, somebody brought up in a chat or social media element where the no amendment to the Constitution is absolute, etc., was would she feel the same way about the 14th Amendment? What part of the 14th Amendment does she think could be suspended for 30 days?
And for those of us with bad memories, the 14th Amendment is...
That was basically, the granted citizenship to all persons born or naturalized in the United States, including formerly enslaved people, and provided all citizens with equal protection under the law.
It also incorporated the federal constitution
At the state level.
On the state level.
Yep. And somebody else came back with, does she also feel that way about the 19th Amendment, which is the right of citizens of the United States to vote shall not be denied or abridged by any state or the federal level on account of sex?
See, that's actually what I thought you were going with, because I don't have all of the amendments memorized, unfortunately.
No, neither do I. I actually had to look up the 19th because I can remember if it was the 18th or the 19th.
Mm-hmm.
But the 18th was, I believe, prohibition.
18th was the Volstead Act. And the 21st repealed it.
Yeah.
Yep. But basically, does she know constitutional element is absolute, feel the same way about abolishing slavery or giving women the right to vote? That those are not absolute.
And for those counting at home, this announcement was made over the weekend, and as of this Monday afternoon, there are at least 4 lawsuits filed over this. And it's one of those things that I think we've made clear that even, obviously this is a pro-gun podcast, and all of you lovely listeners, it's a pretty good chance that you're pro-gun. But even if you're not,
this is an egregious abuse of government power.
Just the governor going, you know what? I don't care. I'm not waiting for the legislature to do anything. I am not doing anything. I'm just declaring that this is the law now.
Yep.
Well,
yeah, she pulled a Judge Dredd.
If it can be done to the Second Amendment, it can be done to any of the others.
Yeah.
Absolutely. That was the whole purpose of the Patriot Act in a lot of respects, was to gut constitutional protections.
I mean, let's just light this poop bag on fire. Let us say, for example, that a radical terrorist who is a Muslim blows up a whole bunch of people in Arizona. She could very easily, using this exact same logic, say, this is a public health emergency, and so for however long as I want to say, I'm going to suspend the First Amendment, and Muslims do not have the right to gather at mosques to worship.
Yep. For 30 days, I'm closing the mosques, and all mosques must give the government lists of their members.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that's never been tried before. But what's interesting is that within the day, Republicans in the state legislature started movement to impeach, and several Democrat legislature members have signed on. So that's interesting.
I mean, that is the big thing, is that this is getting bipartisan support just because of how egregious this is. And
Yep.
I will say right now, that's certainly Occam's razor. The simplest solution is that's also why David Hogg and Ted Lieu, who both of them are stridently anti-gun, and everyone knows David Hogg if you listen to this podcast.
Right.
But Ted Lieu may not be nearly as well known. So I actually went to his,
at least outside the state of his office. Yeah,
California. I went and looked him up, and I have a link on his own website where he's calling for bans on assault weapons and all sorts of other things. And so this guy is at least supports the boilerplate.
Right. He hasn't seen a gun control law he doesn't like.
Yes.
But weird, isn't anyone supporting Governor Grisham?
Yeah, well, let me just finish up this first. I want to put a little
put a bow on it.
I want to put that last bit. I want for the bow on this one, because it's really it's more of a cherry on top. But I just wanted to say, I am wondering, just because, again, I have never heard a gun prohibitionist say that goes too far. I have absolutely heard them say, we've all heard it a million times. It's the reason why I own an official Beto O'Rourke t-shirt, is because...
Hell yeah, we're coming for your M16s and your AK-47s.
Correct. Is that...
Or actually, you said AR-15s, whatever.
Yes, because... for years, even though they've been calling for bans and all of that stuff, people will say to your face, "No one's coming for your guns. Settle down."
Yeah.
And I was, so when Beto O'Rourke said that, and everybody on the stage, including the presidential hopefuls and the current sitting president, all applauded him, and no one challenged him at all when he said, "Hell yeah, we're coming for your guns." That was great. But when there's no law in place, the gun prohibitionists will absolutely say, "Oh, that's a ridiculous law. Oh, that's silly. That's dumb. That goes too far," and all that. But the moment there is actual law or policy, I've never heard of a gun prohibitionist speaking out, or at least an established one. I mean, obviously you probably find somebody who supports some gun control laws, but does actually have some common sense. But
now I would like to point out, you mentioned Beto O'Rourke as if that was the first time something like that was said, but I would like to turn everyone's attention back to 1995.
Mm-hmm.
So nearly 30 years ago, when Senator Dianne Feinstein on 60 Minutes on national television was quoted as saying, well, she actually said, this is her quote, "If I could have gotten 51 votes in the Senate of the United States for an outright ban, picking up every one of them, Mr. and Mrs. America, turn them all in, I would have done it." So we don't want to take all the guns, has been known as a lie for 30 years.
But again, I've never heard anyone say,
"Oh, that's too far."
California's definition of assault weapons that's constantly chasing after the latest, bullet button defeat type technology, et cetera, or Massachusetts licensing simply to own firearms, or
New York.
Or New York just simply telling people to F off when they apply for a concealed carry permit.
Or when they do apply, you have 6 months to process this. Well, the 6 months doesn't start until it reaches the judge's desk, and we can delay that for a year.
Mm-hmm. But at no point have they ever said, "Oh, New York's gone too far, Massachusetts gone too far, New Jersey's gone too far, California's gone too far, the president has gone too far." Or have we heard them say the ATF has gone too far, declaring bump stocks to be machine guns, or pistol stabilizing braces being shoulder stocks, and things like that?
Or we beat the crap out of this gun to make it malfunction, and it doubled, so now it's a machine gun.
Yeah.
Because, again, never did that before.
Yeah, so what I'm trying to say is I have never seen an instance where an established anti-gunner has actually gone against established law.
Yeah.
They have stood up for them, all the way, including all the amicus briefs by the anti-gun groups in favor of DC's laws against in DC v. Heller,
right,
or Chicago's laws against Otis McDonald, or the
NYSERDA versus Bruin.
Yeah, NYSERDA versus Bruin. Like, it doesn't matter what, they're on the wrong side of history. No, they're on the side of gun control, and they're always and they will always stand up for it.
And that's, I think, what's different here is with the pure gun control laws, ban this gun, ban that gun, redefine this as something already illegal. That is one whole aspect that they're fine with. This, however, I think goes to Erin's point, which is they're seeing this as an overreach that could be used against them. And, so if, for example,
my other theory.
Hold on a second, let me finish.
Yeah,
so, for example, a staunch conservative governor of a very red state saying, I'm going to toss abortion on the table here.
That's probably the best choice.
And say, for the next 30 days, no abortion clinic is allowed to perform an abortion while we take a look into this. Well, if it's legal for Grisham to put a constitutional right on hold for 30 days, then it's permissible for another governor to put anything else on hold for 30 days.
And again,
it's an emergency. We're not going to be having an election.
And it hasn't been that long since we were all, shut up in our homes and not allowed to do pretty much anything.
Speak for yourself.
COVID-19 pandemic. And Massachusetts was pretty bad.
Yeah.
But
I
also
had family in New York City. I heard about it. But
yeah.
Here in Tennessee, we just didn't have restaurants for a few weeks.
Yeah. And so with all that, you also didn't have children in schools. But yeah, when it came to...
It was dependent on the district.
Yeah.
And Anderson County, the schools didn't actually close. They went to a limited schedule.
Let him make his point.
Yeah.
Oh, fine.
There's a lot. There's been rumbles in the jungle that there might be some new restrictions coming up with this new COVID strain that's allegedly causing a spike in hospitalizations, and there has been I have seen nothing but pushback against it from people of all walks of life, and saying, no, we're not going to lock ourselves up again. It didn't really do much of anything the first time around, and it was miserable. We're not doing it again. So Occam's razor says it's going on that. But another thing that popped into my head, and we shall see again, because this is unprecedented for any anti gun prohibitionist to speak out against this, is that potentially Michael Bloomberg saw this as such a ham-handed move when it comes to moving the ball down the field, that he is worried that it's going to jeopardize whatever his next move is. So he's calling out to his loyal retainers to also speak out against it, and is holding his latest campaign funding over their heads.
So who didn't think this was a bridge too far, Weer'd?
Okay.
I was just going to toss one little thing in before that.
Oh, go ahead.
Was it'll be interesting to see who else on the prohibitionist side jumps on the "this is too far" bandwagon. I would be very interested if Mark Kelly was one of them, since he is the adjacent state and has been very vocal about supporting any and all gun control. But yes, Weer'd. Please answer Erin's question.
Oh, actually, I maybe I misheard. What was the question, Erin?
Okay, you're talking about all the people who say this is too far. There's one very notable name who doesn't think this is too far, and in fact supports Governor Grisham. Who is that person?
Yes, thank you, Erin. That is marvelous. And yes, that is Richard Spencer, the notorious neo-Nazi that has come out in favor of this. And I really just wanted to put it in there because, hey, look, a Nazi supporting gun control. The deuce, you say. And just in case people think that the neo-Nazi just means Republican, is the no. This guy is a National Socialist as well as a white supremacist, and he's not that important of a political player one way or the other. He's really more of just a laughing stock that is out there. He has some followers, but I'm not going to inflate his ego any more than he can. But it is a good point to say we are noting that this as such a unifying thing on the this is a terrible idea, that it's another reason to laugh at Richard Spencer.
One other thought that occurred to me was the federal attempts at gun control under the current administration have basically all been stalled or stymied. And there was rumbling that the Biden administration was going to be pushing for some other restriction. And basically, I wouldn't be surprised if this makes them step back briefly. Because even though it's not, it appears that both sides are unifying against gun control. That's not what's happening, but that's what it looks like, or that's what it can be cast as. So it'll be interesting to see how this progresses and what other effects it has. Because it very well might be some other states will take a look at the powers their governor has and decide that's too much. Because that was 2013 was when the SAFE Act was passed. And even some Democrat legislatures were unhappy with the way that Governor at the time, Cuomo, abused the emergency powers to force it through in the middle of the night without the 3-day discussion period. Nothing changed, but there was legislation proposed to restrict that power. And it'll be interesting to see if something like that happens in New Mexico or other states. But it wouldn't really affect anything in New Mexico because she's already exceeding her authority. So like I said, it'll just be interesting to see how this plays out longer term.
Especially if it goes on for a full-on impeachment, because removal of a sitting governor is absolutely a thing that has happened and has happened on multiple times. But
it's still fairly rare.
Yeah, but it's still a super rare occurrence.
Except for New York and Illinois.
You mean it's not rare, or it's never happened?
Not rare.
Okay.
Well, if you think about it, in this century, 3 New York governors have been removed from office or encouraged to resign to avoid greater issues. 3 in 20 years, basically. So, and in Illinois, I believe in similar time span, 2 or 3 of their governors wound up going to prison. So, yeah, New York and Illinois, the gold standard.
Yes. But staying in New Mexico, this is a very, very interesting story. This is coming from Amalan, but the title is New Mexico Shop Seizes Polymer Serial Number. And essentially this story was an 18-year-old gentleman. I believe he's in the Army.
Yeah.
And he called up a gun shop and asked if they had a holster that would fit his gun, and they essentially said your best bet is to just bring the gun with you and try out the holsters. And when he showed up with a polymer 80 Glock that he had finished himself
legally.
Yep, correct.
Fully within the law.
And so the gun shop saw the gun, saw that it did not have a serial number, decided that it was illegal, and so they confiscated it from
Well,
him.
there's one additional step. The gun shop owner requested the young man's ID, saw the lack of serial number, and that he was under 21.
Yep.
And those two elements caused him to confiscate the firearm.
Well, I don't think he specifically asked for the ID. I think he asked for...
That's what it says in the article.
Okay, you're right. Upon catching this, I do see it. See, for some reason, I thought they were saying that he wanted something indicating the serial number on the gun, and the guy was confused. You know, you ask for identification, hands him the ID, but no, you're right. Ask for personal ID. And so, yeah, due to him being underage and the lack of a serial number, the store owner confiscated the firearm. And the gun owner said that he'd be contacting BATFE about the matter. And honestly, I think at that point is where the young man should have called the police, but he didn't.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. And the shop owner apparently claimed that this was... that the individual involved in the situation was under the age of 21 with an Illinois state ID in possession of a complete unserialized handgun. Concern were raised about the situation, and the ATF was contacted immediately for further guidance on the situation. The ATF told Shooters Den LLC to hold it for the time being until advised otherwise. That is the claim by the gun shop, that the ATF told them to maintain a hold on the gun. Then it continues, the ATF has cleared the situation, has allowed us to release the firearm back to the owner, and the situation has passed on to the proper authorities. The owner has been contacted regarding the status of his P80 pistol and has yet to retrieve it.
But wait, there's
Now,
more.
Yes, earlier in the process, said that he would be required to fill out a 4473 and have a NICS check done, which, because he's under 18, he can't for a handgun. That apparently has caused some more grief for this gun shop. And my favorite bit is Gilbert Ambler of the Ambler Law Offices, an attorney who went on record with the AmmoLand interview. They specialize in firearms and criminal defense. Quote, the FFL in this situation took the personal property of another with intent to deprive them of it, which fits the common law definition of theft. Mm-hmm. Even if the FFL thought erroneously that possession of the handgun was a crime, it would still not create justification for the seizure. Instead, the FFL appears to have engaged in bullying and theft. Having an FFL does not convey law enforcement powers. Quite the opposite, in fact. Here, not only is the FFL likely responsible for theft, but in taking the firearm, they also likely violated 18 U.S.C. 922J, which prohibits the receipt and possession of stolen firearms.
Yeah.
Because they stole them themselves.
And also, I don't know about New Mexico in particular, but a lot of states have laws that make theft specifically of firearms an especially naughty thing to do.
Yeah.
And so, as a follow-up, the last thing I saw in that article is that the young man now has filed a police report, again, claiming theft, and I believe the police went and took the gun from the gun store and gave it to him.
Good.
Good.
Yeah, here we go. Gentleman has now filed a stolen property report with local police. It is reported the police retrieved the firearm from the gun store. Well, it just says the Albuquerque. I assume it means the Albuquerque Police Department has yet to release the firearm to the young military member, so he still doesn't have his gun.
Right.
Jeez.
Yeah. Oh, and Weer'd, I just did check, and all, not counting the current one, all of the governors who took office in the 21st century in New York left office under do this or go to jail.
Yep.
Spitzer, Patterson, and Cuomo.
Well, and I want to put a bow on this story. I want to note that if for those that were listening to last week's show, we mentioned the fact that FFL revocations are way up.
Yes.
Right now, and so
and they are not investigator. What's the word I'm looking for? The ATF agents who go to the gun shops to review the 4473s.
Auditors?
Thank you. That is the word. That is exactly the word. Brain. The ATF auditors who are coming in to the shops are being extremely picky. For example, the store where I work, their compliance level is generally 96% and higher, which is, according to the previous auditor, remarkable in how good it is. The last audit prior to this change was 97% compliance. The audit that we just underwent last month was dropped down to 93%. And it was for things like there shouldn't have been a comma there.
Right.
They're
But
really
you-
dinging you for that?
Wait, like I said,
I'm sorry, Aaron, I couldn't quite hear you.
They're really dinging you for lack of a comma?
Or the
Minor,
inclusion of a comma. Yeah.
minor clerical is back on the table, just like it was during the Clinton administration.
Oh, good Lord.
Yeah.
but the two and two I want to put together on this one is that the you see these, like, if they are shutting down gun stores because of abbreviations being used in the wrong place, or the missing commas or added commas or any of that sort of stuff. And meanwhile, we have a gun shop that has been told directly by the ATF to break the law.
Well, that is the claim of the gun shop. In the article, they specifically state they attempt to confirm that with the ATF, but had not received a response. So that might simply be the gun shop doing an appeal to authority.
Yeah, that seems like a real bad move, though.
Yeah, I mean,
this is super stupid to begin with.
Yeah.
But
and that's another level of stupid. But another thought that has occurred is, so let's say that you're one of the gun shops whose compliance rate on 4473s is in the 80% range. And the ATF says you need to get a lot more strict real fast or we're pulling your license. What's one of the ways you can show the ATF how strict you're being?
By sucking up to them?
Pretty much.
Well,
And this type of thing could be a result of that attempt.
And I could very well see being the ATF agent on the other end of the hotline number, getting a call from a gun shop talking about how they don't know whether there's whether it's a legal gun or not, blah blah blah, and just not getting a straight answer from them and going, you know what, just hold on to it until we sort this crap out.
Or another variation of that is, I cannot give you legal guidance. You need to do what you think is best.
Right.
Because remember, folks, if you call the IRS and ask them a question about filling out your tax forms and they give you the wrong answer, you're liable. And that applies across the board. So it could be that they didn't call the ATF and they're just saying that. It could be they called the ATF and got a vague answer that they interpreted this way. Or it could be the person at the ATF said, yeah, hang on to it until we figure this out. All of those are equally bad in different ways. But honestly, I don't recall any of the gun shops I've worked at in 2 states now where the gun shop called the ATF for a clarification of the law. Not saying it didn't happen because I'm not there all the time, but I don't recall hearing any of that talked about in the shops. So I don't know how common it is.
well, you know what is common, David?
Defensive gun use?
That's right. Specifically in active shooter situations. This is a really, really interesting story. This is coming from Crime Prevention Research, which is John Lott's website, and this is Lott's own research.
I feel like
But
we
the
covered this earlier. I mean, yes, I see that the article is current, but didn't he do something very similar like this, and we covered it in a previous podcast, like within the past year?
I think that one was over general defensive gun use, and this one is more specific for active shooter.
Okay,
I could be wrong.
Yeah, I don't remember specifically, but yeah, I know this is definitely a current a brand new research paper. So yeah, it's
Well, all I know is this is not the first time we have quoted John Lott and CPRC saying the FBI numbers are wrong. Here, I will prove it to you. I have receipts.
Mm-hmm. So yeah, so essentially, what John Lott found was that a ton of active shooters or potential active shooters were stopped by armed citizens, but yet when he actually looked at the event, how it was categorized by the FBI for these statistical data, it proved to be it proved that they miscategorized a lot of them and failed to count them.
It was very, very sloppy.
Well, sloppy
basically that-
or intentional.
Yeah, but stupidity is still more common than malice.
It's true.
I'm not denying malice, and there is an overlap, but we're talking about, for the most part, federal bureaucrats. So I will give an edge to incompetence over malice in this case. Not saying there wasn't malice,
Nope.
don't get me wrong.
But yeah, it's certainly a safer bet. But either way, the number of active shooters or potential active shooters stopped by armed citizens was considerably higher, especially if you exclude any of the places where a lawful citizen could not concealed carry legally.
Right. Because again, what percentage of these types of events occur in gun-free zones? 90 something?
Well, according to Lott, I did the research myself back in the Gun Blog Variety days, and I found that it was closer to 70. It's still a lot
of active shooter events or defensive gun use?
Active shooter events that happen specifically in places where concealed carry is completely against the rules. Because I think John Lott uses things like if it happens in the state of Massachusetts, then it's a
gun-free zone.
Yes, it's a gun-free zone. But that's or New York or New Jersey or Illinois, and that is not exactly a true statement.
Woof.
And I think we got one more story. Yes, we do. Hey, Oddball, you want to take this one?
Sure. So the saga of the mysteriously firing Sig Sauer 320s continues. Sig has recently come out with an announcement saying they've figured out what the issue is, which is that they believe the issue is being caused by people carrying their firearm in light-bearing holsters, and specifically carrying in light-bearing holsters without there being a light attached to the pistol, and that is causing enough slop that things are getting inside the holster and pulling the trigger. Which, on one hand, they are correct. If you are carrying a pistol in a holster that is designed for pistol and light, then congratulations, you are not carrying a holster for that pistol.
Unless it was made specifically for that pistol and that light combination.
Sorry, if you're carrying a pistol without a light in a holster made for that pistol,
I'm sorry, I misunderstood.
with a light.
Yeah,
I may have misspoken, but if you're doing that, you are carrying a pistol in a holster that was not designed for that pistol in that configuration. Therefore, you are asking for some trouble. That said, I and this might be a case of self-reporting, but I don't remember this being really an issue with other pistols where people were carrying them in holsters. I would assume that there'd be about the same percentage of people who go, yeah, I'm going to get this pistol that this holster that's for this pistol with this light, and carry it. But you know what? I'm not going to carry the light on the pistol, which...
Yeah. Now, what I had also read, a variant on this was it was a more generic holster for pistol with light, but not for a specific gun and or light model. So it wouldn't be as properly fitting, even if you were carrying a pistol with light. There would still be room for it to wiggle.
Right. I believe that SIG has specifically called out Blackhawk and Safariland holsters.
Blackhawk, the deuce you say?
And in both cases, it's saying, hey, if you're carrying our pistol in these holsters, hey, look in the manual, and it actually warns you that because of the light, the holster has to be made wider to accommodate the light.
Sure.
And that means that you need to be more careful about it. And as I said, if you don't have the light mounted on the pistol when you holster the gun, that gun's going to be able to bounce around in the holster. So it's one of those things that, quite frankly, I think, me personally, I don't think that that's really the issue that we're seeing, but at the same time, this is good advice. And like I was starting to say, if you decide to buy a holster for a pistol light combo, why don't you have the light attached to the pistol?
Yeah.
Just do it. The
Just like
big reason I see to not have a light on a pistol, which, you know, I don't have lights on my pistols, and a good part of the reason why is the added bulk for carry. But if you have a Kydex holster that is made to have that light, congratulations, you have that bulk whether you're carrying the light or not. Might as well do it.
Yeah. Basically, the short form of what we're all saying here is make sure that the holster and gun match.
Yes.
In style, model, configuration, etc.
Yes. I'm still not convinced that there's not some issues with the internals that make it very easy to be in a condition where it can accidentally be bumped off. But
yeah, I do have the pictures that I shared in previous discussions about the comparison of the 320 and 365 internals, specifically here they are. How about that?
Specifically the firing pin block.
Correct. So here they are,
Yeah.
and just the thin sliver of metal for the 320 versus the large button for the 365.
Yeah.
And also the proximity difference.
And I have seen a number of people say, "Hey, if you've got a 320 that does not have an external safety, there are a number of aftermarket folks that will happily sell you a trigger with the dingus in it."
Yeah. Oh yeah. But I mean, it is interesting, and I would like to see more research done on the mechanism and how that can contribute to this issue. But I think it's only now just getting the attention it needs.
Mm-hmm.
But purely from a mechanical design perspective, it's concerning and simultaneously interesting.
Yeah, and it's always one of those things that it's still one of those. The amount of times that's happened is still very much in the statistical anomaly
right
realm.
Yeah, when you consider the number of 320s that are out there riding around in holsters versus the number that have had this issue.
Mm-hmm.
It's kind of similar in some respects. I don't know if any of you remember, but with the Smith & Wesson EZ, they had a bad lot of hammers.
Yes.
And they had the potential of cracking or shearing and unintentionally discharging the firearm. And Smith & Wesson, at the first hint of this, put out a recall for every gun in the serial number range that might have had one of those triggers in it, which I thought was very responsible. And they actually called it a recall. They didn't say it was a safety upgrade or anything like that. They said, here's what happened. If you have a gun within the serial number range, send it back. We'll replace the hammer and ship it back to you, all on our dime.
Yeah, and as we've discussed before, that's something that I've been frustrated with SIG over.
Yeah.
Oh, no, we're not putting out a recall. We're putting out a voluntary upgrade.
Yeah, which, again, that's what Ruger did starting in the 60s with their revolvers, but that really was a safety upgrade.
Right.
That wasn't a recall. That was, we've come out with an improved system. If you'd like it, send us the gun.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas with SIG, this sounds more like either a design or manufacturing issue. And it's hard to say which. Because this could, quite simply, there's nothing wrong with the gun, but there is a stacking tolerance issue. And 0.1% of 1% of the guns in a certain configuration, the tolerances stack in such a way that this can happen.
Right.
But, if the gun is cleared and the striker is reset, it doesn't happen.
Right.
But the guns that sit in the holster and ride around day upon day upon day, then it can. So it's, like I said, I think this needs more attention, and it's finally starting to get it.
I agree.
But it's one of those, it'll be interesting to see how this plays out. But I agree with Oddball that SIG could have handled it a little bit more proactively.
But that would be very unsig-like of them.
Yeah. I mean, it's not like they're HK.
True.
But they rhyme.
So have I been mispronouncing SIG all this time? Because I thought it was Sig Sauer.
It's Sig Sauer.
It is. Said I mispronounced it.
Okay.
And you are not alone. And I'm not just talking about customers. We've got some employees at the gun shop who own SIGs and will call them Sig Sawyer. It is probably the single most common mispronunciation of their name I've heard. So,
okay.
Don't beat yourself up.
Minus the
over it
people
if you're
that say
considering
Walther,
that.
which is
Walter. I've got a Walter.
Well, I mean, I just say the general term of Walther, who's just the Germans neither have a woe nor a th.
That was during World War II. The sign and countersign was lightning, thunder, or flash, thunder, because the Germans couldn't say thunder. It would come out thunder. Unless they were very well educated. One of those neat little historical tidbits that I learned when I was doing reenacting. But we had a guy, just on mispronunciations, we had a guy in the store. It was either early this year or late last year. It doesn't matter. We had a guy come into the store, and he was looking for one of them Barrett 92s. And he was firm on that. Do you mean a Beretta 92? No, I want one of those Barrett 92s. Do you mean a Barrett M82? Is that the one in 9mm? No, that's 50 cal. I want one of the. No, I want the Barrett 92 in 9mm. It was entertaining to watch, and it was one of those. It's funny when it's not happening to you moments.
I would have done the Tito Puente thing of the absolutely, sir. Here, have this Barrett 92.
Oh, that's what the guy eventually did. He just said he gave up.
Don't look too hard at these squiggly symbols on the box.
Oh well, he pulled the clerk pulled a Beretta 92 out of the case, cleared it, laid it on the mat, and pointed to the manufacturer marking on the slide and said, "If you see here, sir, it's actually a Beretta." And the guy looked at it and said, "No, that's a Barrett 92."
Wow.
Like I said, he was firm.
Welcome to the South.
Well, welcome to the firearms industry. My grandpappy shot a deer over 1,000 yards away with his 30-06. Okay? Sir, this is a Wendy's.
I thought you were going to go with a 35 Remington.
Actually, I've heard people claim that with their grandpappy with a 30-30.
Oh,
That's
yeah.
kind of close.
Yeah.
Yeah, I had one friend, this is when I was still up in New York, I had one friend that said that his mom shot a deer on the other side of a valley over 800 yards with a 30-30. She didn't really think she was going to hit it, but she took the shot anyway. And I'm like, there is so much wrong with that statement. I just don't have the time.
You know who doesn't exaggerate things?
Pardon?
Do you know who doesn't exaggerate things?
Our listeners.
Our listeners. Every single one of them are awesome, upstanding individuals. You guys are awesome.
And please, Weird, this time, don't talk about their genitals.
I mean,
now
that you mention them.
Don't. Weirdington Elizabeth Beard.
That's for the mag.
Yes.
No.
And the blooper reel.
We really do appreciate our listeners.
We're not allowed
Thank
to
you
say
so
that
much.
they are big swinging dicks.
I mean, that's not an incorrect
Erin.
statement. It's not an incorrect statement, Erin Paulette.
You provoked
yeah.
me, David.
What? I did what now?
You provoked me.
No, I was trying not to provoke Weird. My salvo was not on target. Yes,
Either way.
That backfired like a SIG 320.
Heyo!
Is it hot in here?
Shots fired.
Yeah, but yeah, thank you so much, listeners. But again, the big swinging dicks are our supporters on Patreon. You guys are wonderful. We really appreciate you as well. And if you would like to join the ranks of the illustrious members on Patreon, go to patreon.com/Assorted Calibers podcast to sign up. And not only do you get to support this show, but you also get to supply us. We get to supply you. Oh, it's late. I'm tired.
It's not that late.
You get good. It is for me. I'm tired. But yeah, you get to you get bonus content. Get film tracks, early release.
And I would like to point out that saying that becoming a patron of the podcast will improve the quality of your genitals, but I'm not saying it won't either.
True. Legally, we cannot say that.
Yes, it's like a supplement.
But either way, go to Assorted Calibers podcast on Patreon. And check out the fine things and see if they interest you.
You didn't say mag dump. Weird.
The mag dump was. I did say it, and then whatever. We're well off the rails, Erin. But yes, the mag dump is awesome. We actually just recorded another one for September or earlier than usual because there's just so much news out there.
My point being is that I didn't know you were done, and I waited until you say mag dump before I go, okay, it's my time to say. Also, please remember to rate us on Apple Podcasts, subscribe to us on the platform of your choice, and share the show with your friends, both online and off.
You can get to my blog at weirdworld.com, and I'm also on Handgun Radio on the Firearms Radio Network.
And you can get more from me at linktree/Erin Paulette. That's linktree.ee/Erin Paulette, all one word. And I actually wrote something yesterday. I'm not saying that I'm completely back on the wagon. Whatever. But
I mean, if you fall off the wagon, I guess it makes sense to get back on the wagon.
Anyway, I don't know if things are getting back to normal or I'm just adapting, but it is a slow return to normal pattern for me, which is comforting. So hopefully I'll be writing more going forward. And thanks to Nate Spencer for our music. Oh, right, you got your other guys.
Yeah. In theory, I'll have something substantial up soon on gunscarstech.com.
Hooray.
And I can also be found occasionally on Handgun Radio. I am a contributor to Blue Collar Prepping at bluecollarprepping.blogspot.com, and we are back, baby. And hopefully we can get some more folks to kick in. And I'm also a published author. Books with my stories can be found on Amazon under Brenna Bach and David Bach, including the latest anthology from Raconteur Press, Your Honor, I Can Explain, which is all sorts of humorous legal escapades.
And thanks to Nate Spencer for our music. Are we going to do an outro? Or not, Father?
Sure.
Ooh.
So, in regards to Liberty Safes, we should cherish the grudge we have. We should cherish the grudge we have. It's by Cool in the Gang from 1984. Look it up. Kids, ask your grandparents.
Mhm.
And so is our podcast. Good night, everybody. Thanks for backing me up.
Good night.
Good night.